Get that water out of the goddamn huddle. I'll tell you when you get a fucking water break.
Welcome to the Buccaneers Observer Podcast. This is Ralph Phillips.
I'm Molly Bay.
Today is March 15th, 2020. 182 days until Buccaneers kickoff. Woohoo!
We hope everyone is safe and healthy in their homes, enjoying your quarantine.
Yes, we have been enjoying ours. We've been housebound for almost a week now.
No, it hasn't been that long.
It is for me.
It just feels that long.
All right, got a lot of news to cover today. A lot of big things have happened. First and foremost, get our fact check and follow-ups out of the way. Fact check, Alex Mack is the center for the Atlanta Falcons. Not an ex-player, like I said when we talked about him as the new treasurer of the NFLPA.
I thought that, but then I was like, oh, maybe there's two Alex Macks. Apparently not.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking straight when I said that. So, got that out of the way.
All right. Oh, I have one little piece of news. Buccaneers news. Chris Godwin got engaged to his girlfriend, Mariah Del Persia. That's per Greg Auman. And her father was apparently his high school coach.
Oh, wow.
So congratulations to Chris and Mariah.
Congratulations. Wedded bliss coming up.
Why'd you say it like that?
Because we all know marriage is awesome. All right. Saturday night at midnight, the new CBA deal was passed.
I cannot believe it. It really surprises me.
It was an extremely close vote, 1,019 to 959. There was a 60-vote difference, 52% to 48%. So what we got with this new CBA is, for one, only one tag is allowed now with the transition or franchise tag. 17-game regular season starting as early as 2021. Now, some people say that this year we could see the 17-game season, so we're not quite sure about that, how it's going to play out.
How would that even work, though? We already know who our opponents are, so how are they going to pick that extra game?
Yeah, it'll probably be next year they start the 17 games. I don't know. 3 preseason games instead of 4. Increase in the players' revenue share from 47% to 48.5%.
Well, the 48.5% is an option in 2021. Or no, after that. If the season increases to 17 games by then, that's when the 48.5% will kick in.
Okay.
But otherwise, it's 47% in 2020 and then increasing to at least 48% in 2021, maybe 48.5%.
All righty. We got the narrowing window for drug testing from 4 months to just 2 weeks at the start of training camp and reducing the number of players who are subjected to testing.
That's always been a real contentious issue because it seemed like the random drug tests weren't necessarily that random. They happened to, I don't want to say target, but involve controversial figures in the league, Richard Sherman, Eric Reed. So that was a criticism from the players.
Plus, they have the reduced penalties for positive marijuana tests, like we've talked about here on the podcast. The first 2 infractions will receive no penalties. The third one will just be a fine for half a game check, and then it increases from there. Players will not be suspended for testing positive for marijuana anymore unless they either refuse the test or get busted. I think it's 7 times, something of that nature.
I was thinking about this after we did the CTE podcast because in Brainwash, they talk about how CBD is very useful. It's an anti-inflammatory.
Right.
And perhaps the NFL should, well, I don't think that they made this argument, but perhaps the NFL should start using CBD as a anti-inflammatory rather than all these addictive opioids.
That'd be smart.
You would think so.
They've expanded the roster size from 53 players to 55. One of those expanded spots has to be in for an offensive lineman, as we talked about on the podcast earlier.
Yeah, this is crazy. So the roster limit is still 53 players, but then 2 players from the practice squad can be brought up to increase the roster size to 55 on game day. And those 2 additional players revert back to the practice squad after game day. They also increase the size of the practice squad from 10 to 12. Carmen Vitale has a really good article on Buccaneers.com.
Interesting.
And active game day rosters also go from 46 to 48. And that's the ones that one of them have to be an offensive lineman.
Okay. And last but not least, the playoff field expands from 6 teams per conference to 7. Only the top seed in each conference earns a bye week.
That's interesting that they're only doing one team gets a bye. You would think that it would be more. Maybe they'd have another.
Give one extra team.
You know, you're adding more teams, but then you take away one bye.
Yeah.
But that makes the bye so much more important, and I think we'll see much more competitive games in November, December. So I like that change.
I do too. That's some Buccaneers news. We got Jameis has put up another video showing his rehab and talking about how 14 years earlier he had met Drew Brees in that same facility when Drew Brees was rehabbing, going between the Chargers to the Saints. Jameis Winston talked about how he got his autograph. He was the first person to get Drew Brees' autograph while he was a Saint, and he kept making the comparison to that's when Drew Brees made his big transformation, and Jameis Winston plans on doing the same thing.
Interesting. So is he more talking about the rehab part of that, or the signing with a new team that didn't really believe in you?
Right.
Like, what message is he trying to send there? I guess it could really go either way, depending on how it plays out.
The Buccaneers have announced they signed tight end Tanner Hudson to a 1-year deal. Hudson, who is 25 years old, was set to become an exclusive rights free agent. He appeared in 9 games for Tampa Bay in 2019, making 2 receptions for 26 yards. He killed it in the preseason, but in the regular season didn't do quite as much. Hudson originally entered the league as a college free agent with the Buccaneers in 2018 before spending his rookie season on Tampa Bay's practice squad.
I like that signing. I think that he's got a lot of room to grow, but I really see some good potential there. I liked him.
I did too.
Unfortunately, I think our tight ends as a unit really underperformed last year, so I hope that that's something that the team really focuses on in the offseason.
Well, I think our coaching staff really underutilized them. They used them way too much in blocking. I mean, we had 3 really good tight ends, 2 elite tight ends. And
pass-catching tight ends.
Yes, pass-catching
not blockers.
tight ends. And just did not use them effectively, I didn't think. But of course, if you listen to this podcast, I bitched about it enough. Gerald McCoy's son is committed to the University of Oklahoma. Surprise, surprise. That's Gerald McCoy's alumni, or he's an alumni at Oklahoma. So his son's going to be going there. It's so crazy to think Gerald McCoy's got a son going into college. I know he had him quite young.
I don't think that it's his biologically. I think it's a child of his wife that he's raised as
really?
His son. Yeah.
You sure about that?
I think Rick Stroud mentioned it before.
Well, in either case, it makes me feel old.
Yeah. I know, you would not think that. Especially Gerald seems very young to me. I mean, he's my age, so maybe that's what it is.
You're an old coot. The NFL's 2020 league year will start on time. The NFL sent out memos to teams that the schedule stands. Tags are due tomorrow at 11:59 a.m. Tampering begins 1 minute later at noon. And the league year starts Wednesday at 4 p.m. So that's when all the signings will start. We'll know. There's rumors that the One Buck place is frantically trying to get a contract done with Shaq Barrett. But if they don't, I'm pretty sure they're going to franchise him tomorrow. If nothing else, that'll give him more time to hammer out a contract. Barrett said he's fine with the franchise tag, but he would like more security, of course. But he's fine with the franchise tag.
It's a useful tool when you don't have a lot of time to reach a deal or your time has run out. Mm-hmm. It's useful to
extend the time
kind of extend that negotiating period. It's like what they did with Grady Jarrett last year at the Falcons.
Now, the CDC released guidelines after the NFL sent the memo out, and the guidelines saying that large events and mass gatherings of 50 people or more should be canceled or postponed for the next 8 weeks. Now, this falls right during the NFL draft, the offseason programs for head coaches and returning coaches, and rookie camps. So it's going to be interesting to see how the NFL handles that. The CDC, this is just guidelines, it's not mandatory, of course, but the CDC did say that this did not include businesses or business-related gatherings.
Why shouldn't it? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah.
What's the difference? I don't think viruses make that distinction.
I don't think the virus cares.
What do I know? Andy Slater, who is a talk show host, reported that the NFL has informed Vegas hotels and vendors that the draft will not take place there April 23rd through the 25th. But they haven't officially said that. That's just what his sources say.
Well, from all indications, it's going to be without a crowd, and it might all be teleconferenced. Instead of players walking across the stage, shaking hands with.
No, that's unfortunate. That's kind of a big deal when you're drafted.
Right.
I would rather see them maybe postpone it a month.
Yeah, you could do that, but then that would be right when off-season programs start.
Probably, but how much are the rookies really getting out of that? I mean, I think at that point in May that they're still kind of getting oriented with the team. And yeah, you lose a few weeks with them, but I don't think that it would be that detrimental.
Right. And, this is all written in pencil right now, depending on how this coronavirus spreads and whatnot.
I feel a little frantic today because I fully expected them to postpone the free agency and the deadlines, and then they didn't. And so it's like, oh, wow, okay, we got to get this going.
I know, we're like scrambling here. We're like, oh my gosh. In case you didn't know, we just switched our hosting service from our own personal podcast server to Anchor.fm. You know the reason why we did that?
There was a myriad of reasons for it, Ralph.
Well, number one, it's free.
Number two, it is so easy. Even Molly can do it herself theoretically, but she's not going to.
Are we going to do that in every ad?
We are.
That's the joke.
That's the joke. It has creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer.
We've never tried the phone thing. We're going to do that one day.
Maybe on the road if we ever travel.
Yeah. But you can make money from your podcast. There's no minimum listenership. And it's basically everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. But the good part of it is they got an app. So download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started.
But I am really excited about free agency after I've done this preview. I am a little concerned in one area. We'll get to that. We've got 23 total players up for free agency. That's not that bad. New Orleans has 24. I think we had similar numbers last year. So...
Dang, that's almost half our roster.
Right. But you got to figure a lot of them are depth guys. So I'm just going to run off the names of the free agents quickly, and then we'll get into the meat of the podcast. So we've got Ndamukong Suh, Jameis Winston, DeMar Dotson, Bo Allen, Shaquil Barrett, Rashad Perriman, Jason Pierre-Paul, Peyton Barber, Blaine Gabbert, Darian Stewart, Sam Acho, Carl Nassib, Rakeem Nunez-Roches, Kevin Minter, Earl Wadford, Josh Wells, Ryan Smith, Andrew Adams, Gerald Hawkins, Michael Lidke, Anthony Auclair, Orion Stewart, and Bryant Mitchell. So a lot of depth guys.
Yeah, really.
A lot of guys.
Yes, it just seemed like the top five or so. Go back to the Sue, Winston, Dotson, Bo Allen, Shaq Barrett, Rashard Perriman, JPP, and Peyton Barber are really the big
starters.
Ones.
Yeah. Now let's run through the numbers. With the CBA, the cap increased to $198,200,000.
Okay,
So
that doesn't include the bump from 47% to 48.5%, right?
No, that's like a revenue share thing. That doesn't have anything to do with the cap.
Really? I thought it would increase the cap space.
No.
Okay.
We had $11 million that rolled over from last year, so our total available is $209,819,760. Now, the top 50 on the roster are the ones that determine how much cap you've used. Top 51, not 50. So that for us is $125 million. Then Spot Rack is allocating about $7 million for our draft signings, and then we've got $88,000 in dead cap.
Man, that's nothing.
Yeah. So we have the Buccaneers organization and Jason Light are really good with the dead cap money. We
Fantastic with dead
never
cap,
have a lot.
Yeah.
So the top 51, we've got about $76 million to sign our top 51. Total, we've got about $84 million. So that's kind of the number you're going to hear thrown around. But that's for everybody on the team. And then the $76 million accounts for the $7 million we're going to have to use to sign our draft pick. So $76 million to play with. And we're actually top 5 in the league this year for cap space.
Nice.
So
Last year
that's
we were barely under the wire. Remember that?
Exactly. And I just did a quick look at some of our division opponents, and I think New Orleans had the second most, and they only have 11 million. So everybody else in the division has 11 million or less in cap space. Yeah, it's wonderful. I can't wait to get to that. We'll probably do that one next podcast and go through all the know your enemies. So I want to go through, I kind of divided all of our free agents into tiers. So our top free agents that we have to sign, the mid-tier guys that are probably expendable, but we would like to get back.
Okay.
But they may be cap casualties, and then the guys who definitely are going to be cap casualties.
All right.
So, of course, number 1 on the list is Shaquil Barrett. Rick Stroud actually tweeted a few minutes ago that the Bucs plan to use the franchise tag on Shaq because they haven't gotten a deal done yet. So you were pretty spot on with that. His market value, according to SpotRack, is $15.7 million with a contract valued at $63 million. This surprises me. It seems a little low to me. I've also heard numbers thrown around like $1 million a sack is what we could expect. So $19.5 million. He's the 4th ranked outside linebacker by SpotRack. Now, here's
4th ranked?
Yeah.
What?
I know.
Who do they have 3 places ahead?
I don't know. So, as far as contracts goes, here are the top 5 paid outside linebackers in the league. Number 1 is Khalil Mack. His average salary is $23.5 million. Von Miller comes in second at $19 million. Chandler Jones is third at $16.5 million. Zadarius Smith is at $16.5 million. And then Shaq Thompson is $13.6 million. So I think somewhere in there is pretty reasonable. Between $13 million and $23.5 million, I would say it's probably closer to that upper than the lower.
Yeah, 17, 18 million.
I wanted to look back through all the sack leaders in the last, 10 years and see if any of them had gotten a big contract after they were the sack leader that year. And surprisingly, most of the guys signed their contracts, then a year or two later were the sack leaders. Huh. But there was one guy who became the sack leader and then signed a big fat contract after it, and that was Justin Houston in 2014. The Chiefs placed a non-exclusive franchise tag on him, which would have had him making $13 million that year, and then they reached a 6-year deal worth $101 million, $52.5 million guaranteed. And the $20 million signing bonus was spread out in the first 2 years of the contract. Now, this is how he performed after he signed this big fat contract. Uh-oh. So in 2015, he only played 11 games. He got $13 million, and he was 27th overall for sacks. So,
a big drop.
Yeah, he went from 1st to 27th. But he only played 11 games because of injury. So then the second year of his contract, he made $23.5 million, which is huge. But he was 80th for sacks. He only played 5 games due to injury that year.
Gosh.
Yeah. Then in year 3, he made $16.5 million. He was 19th overall for sacks. Year 4 of his contract, he made $14 million. He was 24th for sacks. And then year 5, he went to the Colts and was 13th for sacks. So I just found that interesting. I don't think it is indicative of what's going to happen with Shaq, but it was just interesting to see how that played out.
Yeah, it's kind of scary because you never know if a guy's a flash in the pan or not. I do not believe Shaq Barrett is. Watching him on tape,
yeah, I don't think
he's really, really good. He's got a lot of tools in his toolkit.
I think that we can expect more teams to focus on him because he's been in the limelight. You have some tape on him. So I think he'll see a little more opposition than he did this year because he caught people by surprise.
We'll see. It's going to be interesting. But hopefully I think we have a elite edge rusher for a long time to come.
After looking at his market value and comparable salaries and everything like that, I think that we can expect a contract in the range of 17 to 19 million. Okay. That would be my guess.
Okay. Sounds fair.
Maybe 18 million. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay. Now let's move on to Ndamukong Suh. He made 9.25 million last year. He had the 7th highest 2019 salary of all the free agent defensive linemen. He was tricky to gauge, and so is JPP later, because Spot Rack has them listed. They've got both of them listed as defensive ends, but I mean, JPP is a defensive end.
Yes, but Suh's
more of a defensive tackle. So for Suh's, I just looked at all the free agent defensive linemen.
Okay.
Not necessarily just the defensive tackles, because they've got him listed as an end, and I suspect other defensive tackles in similar positions are probably listed the same way.
Mm-hmm.
In any case, he had the 7th highest 2019 salary of all the defensive linemen up for free agency this year. So the range is Jadeveon Clowney was top. He made $15 million. Everson Griffin with Minnesota made $14.5 million. Linval Joseph of Minnesota made $12.58 million. Damon Harrison of Detroit made $11.25 million. Michael Brockers of the Rams made $11 million, and Dontari Poe of Carolina made $9.33 million. Now, I have him listed as a free agent, but the club has an option for him this year, so they could pick up another year on his contract. Suh is 33 years old, which makes him the 5th oldest free agent defensive lineman. And as far as his age bracket, here's where their salaries fall. Defensive end Cameron Wake is age 38. He's with Tennessee and made $7.667 million last year. Defensive tackle Brandon Mebane. Age 35 with the Chargers, made $5.275 million last year. Defensive tackle Damana Pico with Baltimore is 35. He made $1 million last year. And defensive end Michael Bennett, age 34 with Dallas, made $8.375 million last year.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so that range is, I would expect him to be at the higher end of that this year. So he made $9 million last year. Michael Bennett made $8 million. Cameron Wake made $7 million. So I think in that price range is kind of where we're looking.
Okay, yeah. So he could do $9 million again. Maybe.
Yeah. That was kind of what I was thinking would be reasonable for him. I had $9 million as the high range, maybe $7 million on the low end.
Okay. How about $7 million with incentives?
Yeah, I would love that, and I think that's pretty reasonable. And I think that's something that is reasonable. On Suh's side, is something that he could definitely accomplish.
And that's if Suh wants to come back. We don't know. We haven't heard anything one way or another. He might go out and headhunt, see if he can get a better deal somewhere else. We don't know.
He might. And, that was a criticism of him last year when we signed him.
Mercenary.
That he's kind of a mercenary. But I think that he had really good chemistry with Vea and the rest of the team. So I would like to think that he wants to be a Buccaneer next season. And the market for defensive linemen is pretty big. Now, granted, with his skill set, there's probably not a whole lot available, but overall, there's 25 in free agency. So I think it might be a situation like last year where he's still sitting in May with no job if we don't sign him. JPP was another tricky one. Because, again, he's more of a defensive end, but he's listed as an outside linebacker. He's listed as an outside linebacker on the Buccaneers website, too. But it's finding those comparable players that play a similar position regardless of their designation. So his salary in 2019 was $3 million.
Wow, that was cheap.
Yeah, but he had total, it was $7.75 million with incentives and bonuses. So he made that up. And remember, wasn't he supposed to make like $14 million last year before he got in the car accident? And that was kind of a big deal during free agency because we had no money.
Yes.
And then he got put on the non-football injury list.
Right.
And so it kind of changed his salary.
And then they reworked his salary to a one-year deal.
Exactly. Where he hits free agency. So that's where we are now. He's age 31, kind of in the same boat as Suh. He's up there. The average salary of defensive ends, age 30 plus, is $5.8 million. The high is Everson Griffin with Minnesota at $14.5 million. The low is Rashid Hagman with Atlanta at $735,000. So league minimum, basically. Now, for outside linebackers, which I really don't think this is him on Spot Rack's website because it has people listed like Levante David. So I don't even know that this is comparable, but the average salary of outside linebackers age 30 plus is $2.57 million. And that's, again, why I don't think that it's necessarily comparable to JPP.
No, you'd have to compare him to defensive ends.
I think so, too. And when you look at the defensive ends, last year, all the free agent defensive ends available, he was third overall for sacks. And he only played 10 games.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of a big deal. All the other, I think Cameron Wake was up there, but he played 13 games. So he had 3 games on JPP and only like one more sack maybe. So overall, I think I would predict him to make $8 million, $9 million maybe.
Okay.
So.
Seems a little high, but.
You think so?
Yeah.
I just think that for the caliber player that he is, I don't think that he's going to hang around for less money. I think he feels like his he might get more value out in free agency.
Okay.
So if we spend $18 million on Shaq, we spend $9 million on Sue and $9 million on JPP. This is the high end at most. We would have about $40 million left. So that brings me to the quarterback situation. Those are the 3 free agents that I think we absolutely have to get these guys back. We've got to make it a priority. And then quarterback comes next. So let's talk. This is not in order of preference, although maybe it is. Tom Brady, his market value per Spot Rack is $33 million. He only made $23 million last year. It was a 1-year deal with New England. The comparables on Spot Rack's website are Jared Goff.
Boo.
I know. Who aged 20. I don't know that this one's a great one. I think he's age 24, which is a huge difference with Tom Brady. He got a 4-year, $134 million deal with an average salary of $33.5 million.
Yeah.
I know. Totally overpaid on that one. Russell Wilson, age 30, 4-year deal worth $140 million, an average salary of $35 million.
Yeah.
But I think the age is just such a discrepancy there.
Oh, yes.
And I think between the two, I'd rather have Tom Brady than Russell Wilson all day. Aaron Rodgers signed his deal at age 34. It was a 4-year, $134 million deal with an average salary of $33.5 million. And then this is probably the best indicator. Ben Roethlisberger signed a 2-year deal at the age of 37 worth $68 million and an average salary of $34 million. So if we sign Tom Brady at his market value of $33 million, that leaves us with $7 million in cap space for everybody else.
For the other...
Oh, we'll get to that in a second. For the other 2019 players that we're missing that are up for free agency. Yeah. Now, today, the Tennessee Titans signed Ryan Tannehill to a 4-year extension. So they are totally out of the running for Tom Brady.
Yeah, Phil Simms claimed that Brady will either sign with the Bucs or remain with the Patriots. He said the 49ers are out of the running. They're going to stick with Garoppolo. And he said that Brady does not want to go to the Raiders. And the other team is the Chargers. For some reason, they're not in it either, according to Chris Simms. So, was it Chris Simms or Phil Simms? I think it was Chris Simms. I don't know if he had an inside source that was telling him this or whatever, but he said the Bucs, it's either going to be the Bucs or the Patriots.
And I wonder what it's going to depend on. The money? Is it the money? I don't feel like it's the money.
Right. You don't know what Brady's...
He's never been about the money. He has restructured his contract, I don't know how many times, to make sure that they had enough money to pay the other players. He doesn't take these exorbitant salaries. Like last year, he's only making $23 million.
Right. Well, maybe now he wants to make the big salaries. Don't know. Maybe he wants to go out being the highest paid quarterback in the league.
I just don't think he cares about the money.
I don't think so either. But that's just us speculating.
It is. Now, Tannehill, his extension included $62 million in guaranteed money, $29.5 million in average salary, a $20 million signing bonus. So that totaled to $118 million over 4 years.
Good Lord.
His base salary in 2020 is $17.5 million, and then in 2021 it's $24.5 million. So that's actually pretty reasonable, although I think the signing bonus will factor into that also his cap hit.
Man, I think they overpaid there, but...
Maybe, but I mean, $17.5 million, that's pretty reasonable. I guess it just depends on how the signing bonus factors into that.
Oh, that was his... I was seeing it. I was looking at his average salary at $30 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that includes...
$17.5 million. That's great for 2020.
Right.
What was the guaranteed? $62 million?
Yeah.
Over how many years?
4.
Oh, okay. That's not bad at all, then.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Okay.
And I think that he earned it. I think he played... very well. Well, look at the Tennessee Titans season. I mean, they started off with Mariota. They were second. Tannehill comes in, lights it up, takes them to the playoffs, to the championship, right?
Yeah.
So good for him. I mean, he turned that team around.
Yeah, see, when he came in, the team turned around, that's for sure. I don't know if he was the cause, but it does seem like it. Watching him play, though, I was just like, ugh, I mean, Mariota sucked, but, Tannehill wasn't anything special, I didn't think.
He had something. I don't know what it was. All right. Let's move on to Jameis.
Jameis. Famous Jameis.
I shouldn't have said it like that. I said it really.
How'd you say? Jameis. What'd you say?
Like Jameis.
Jameis. Come on, Jameis.
His market value per spot rack is $26.7 million. So that's a $6 million difference. If we pay him, that will leave us with about $13 million for everybody else. So a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a big difference.
Now the comparables are Jared Goff, which we talked about earlier, Carson Wentz, which I think this is a really reasonable comparison. He signed his contract at 26. He got a 4-year, $128 million deal with an average salary of $32 million. I think that is vastly overpaying for Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
The next is Kirk Cousins, who signed his contract at the age of 29. It was a 3-year, $84 million deal with an average salary of $28 million. And then Derek Carr, who signed at the age of 26 to a 5-year, $125 million deal that carried an average salary of $25 million. So you can see where he ranks in those comparables. I think those are reasonable comparisons. I think the contracts are a little overpriced, but the market is what the market is. With Rick Stroud reporting that the Bucs will use the franchise tag on Winston, that means that Jameis is going to enter the 3-day legal tampering period.
Wait a minute. They're saying they're not going to use the franchise tag, or they are?
They are. They're going to use it on Shaq. So,
okay.
So they can't use it on Jameis.
You scared me there for a second. I was like, what?
Yeah, they're not using it on Jameis. So he's going to at the very least be able to talk to other teams.
Oh, for the tampering period. Yeah, yes. Okay, gotcha.
So the start of this week is going to be very interesting.
Very interesting.
Some other names have been thrown around for potential Tampa Bay quarterbacks include Teddy Bridgewater, whose spot rack is reporting has a market value of $21.5 million, which would be very team friendly.
Now, Phil Simms, who's the father of Chris Simms, ex-Buccaneer quarterback Chris Simms, he brought up an interesting idea on an NBC Sports podcast that he was on with Chris Simms. He says the Bucs might be able to sign Teddy Bridgewater and Jameis Winston and have them battle it out.
You know, since we had the quarterback competition between Ryan Fitzpatrick and Jameis Winston, I am not a fan of that strategy.
No, it just makes it too... Your fan base and your team becomes too divisive.
And you have your starter always looking over their shoulder.
Right, which is what Bruce Arians wanted to avoid last year.
And that's why he let Ryan Fitzpatrick walk.
Right.
Which I agree was a wise move. So I'm not really a fan of that going forward. If you weren't going to use it last year during a contract year when Jameis had everything to lose, why would you sign him to a contract, bring in another quarterback that you're going to sign to a contract? I mean, Teddy Bridgewater could get a starting job. Why is he going to sign for anything less than that?
And you know what they could do is put the transition tag on Jameis Winston. So he can test free agency, and we can see if there's a team out there that wants to pay him big money.
Right, but then you can't franchise Shaq.
Oh, that's right. We're going to franchise
Yeah,
Shaq.
we lost.
I forgot about that.
We lost that card.
Yeah. Okay, well, hey, we might be without a quarterback.
We might be
for
without a quarterback. So Teddy Bridgewater.
Ryan Griffin, come on, step it up.
He could. I mean, I don't know.
I want to see him play in a game. You know,
I like him.
I know the guy has been collecting a check for what, 7 years now or something.
That's the way to do it, man.
I know.
He's had no risk to his body. Teddy Bridgewater's market value was determined by comparing him to Jimmy Garoppolo, who signed a contract at 26 to a 5-year, $137.5 million deal with an average salary of $27.5 million. Derek Carr signed his deal at 26, 5-year, $125 million with an average of $25 million. And then Nick Foles, who was 30 when he signed his 4-year, $88 million deal with an average salary of $22 million. And then Jacoby Brissett, who signed a 2-year, $30 million deal with an average salary of $15 million. So the other three in this comparison earned $27.5 million, $25, and then $22 million. So that Jacoby Brissett earning $15 million average a year really brings Teddy Bridgewater's number down. And I don't think that that's a fair comparison. Because I think Teddy Bridgewater, he's more experienced.
Oh, yeah, Brissett. He was not very good. I
didn't think so either. So I don't know that that's right. And I think that Jacoby is kind of bringing Teddy's value down. In any case, we signed Teddy Bridgewater for $21.5 million. That would leave us with $18.5 million to sign our other guys. So that would leave us with even more wiggle room than Jameis. And then lastly, we've got Phillip Rivers with a market value of $24.3 million compared to all the old guys in the league. Ben Roethlisberger, who again signed at 37 to a 2-year, $68 million deal with an average salary of $34 million. Drew Brees, who signed at the age of 39 to a 2-year, $50 million deal with an average salary of $25 million. Tom Brady with his 1-year, $23 million deal. And then Alex Smith, who signed at the age of 33, a 4-year, $94 million deal with an average salary of $23.5 million. So if we sign Phillip to a $24 million deal, that would leave us with $15.7 million. So what we do at quarterback is going to have really big implications for this next tier of free agents that we need to sign. So these are guys that I picked out that I think we should re-sign. They're important to the team. They're more depth guys, but they're important nonetheless. So these are some of the guys that are going to be cap casualties. Absolutely, no question. We can't sign all of them. At the top of the list, who I would love to bring back more than anybody else, is Carl Nassib. He only made $899,000 last year, which is an absolute steal, although he was there primarily for depth. But I think that he was an important part of that line. I compared him to other outside linebackers around his age, and I think that we could anticipate a contract of around $2 to $3 million.
Yeah.
I mean, if we could get him for $1 million, sign him for a couple years, 3-4 years, I would love that.
Mm-hmm.
DeMar Dotson made $5.5 million last year. I don't know if he's even going to want to come back. I mean, he might retire.
He might. We might end up going with Josh Wells, or you drafting somebody and starting them as a rookie.
Yeah, I think that's a real possibility. In either case, we need to get some depth there, because even if DeMar comes back this year, he's not a long-term guy. He's not going to be there much longer. I would say this probably is last year. He's 34, 35. That's old in football years, unless you're a quarterback.
That's old in human years, too.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about you're old.
How old are you?
Hey, I've been living with the fact that I'm old for over 20 years now, so about time for you to start.
I would guess for DeMar Dotson, we'd pay him $2 million.
You think he would come back for $2 million? I don't know, man. But I mean, ain't nobody else going to sign him.
No one else is going to pay him. So you want to come back, you play for $2 million.
Yeah. That's going to be an interesting one.
Or retire. Bo Allen, He made $5 million last year. My guess is that he'd want something similar.
Yeah.
He did take a pay cut a couple years ago to come back.
Yeah.
Or last year.
It was last year.
Which I love, and I would love to be able to keep him just for that kind of loyalty to the team.
Yeah. But $5 million for his snap count, that's too much.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah, and he might want to go somewhere else where he's going to get more playing time.
Well, he's never been a full-time starter, a big snap count guy.
Not at the Eagles either.
No,
So why the hell did we pay him so much to come here?
Because he won the Super Bowl with the Eagles.
God. Brashad Perriman made $4 million last year. What do you think he's going to want? I have no idea.
Too much.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, we paid him $4 million last year. With how he played at the end of the season, my guess is he'd want $7 million.
No way we're paying him $7
Yeah,
million.
I don't think we're paying. I don't think he's coming back.
I don't either. There's too many teams that are going to want him. Although this draft class is heavy on wide receivers. From what I hear. I don't know. I just pulled that out of my butt, actually.
I do like Perriman, but I think he's expendable.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when you've got Godwin and Evans, everybody's expendable.
And the other guys, these mid-tier guys, Carl Nassib, I think is more important to the team. I think.
Yeah, especially for the price.
Yeah. I think Nacho, he's next. He made $895,000 last year. I think he needs to come back.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and then Ryan Smith is up for free agency. He only made $733,000 last year. So, sounds like league minimum or close to it for that position. He didn't get much playing time, and we don't really need him for the secondary, but he's our special teams ace. I think we really need to get him back for that, if nothing else.
Agreed.
And especially, can you see him under Keith Tandy? He's like mentoring him and coaching, and I just love it. I really want him to come back. And then we've got Anthony Auclair, who I'm not really a big fan of. I think that they really like him for blocking, not so much for the holding. So I think that he's a restricted free agent. So we basically have the right of first refusal. And he made $561,000 last year, so basically league minimum.
Yeah, of that list, Nacho and Nassib are really the only ones I would say, hey, we need to bring them back.
I think so too.
Everybody else is expendable.
I would like to have Bo back.
Yeah, and Ryan Smith.
But
if they don't come back, it's not going to hurt us that bad.
Right. And you understand it.
Yeah.
They're a cap casualty.
Yeah.
And then the guys who I think have little chance of coming back. Peyton Barber.
Yeah, he's not going to be back.
With the way that he ran last year, and then BA's made some comments about the running back core.
And did not
mention Peyton.
Yeah.
So I think the writing's on the wall.
He basically got replaced by Rojo last year.
Yeah, so I think he's done. Blaine Gabbert, I'm not sure about. That's really going to depend on what they do at quarterback.
Right.
Whether they keep Jameis. If they bring in Tom Brady, I could see us drafting someone to develop underneath of Tom Brady, which I would love. That's a really cool thing.
Yeah, Ron Griffin.
That's tough. Well, it's kind of like with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Like, Aaron Rodgers played under Brett Favre for years and just learned. And I don't think that we would have Tom Brady that long, but it would be enough, I think, to mentor somebody else. And look at the quarterbacks who have come out in the league that have played behind Tom Brady, and Brock Osweiler, Garoppolo, who's got a starting job. So
yeah.
And then we've got Darian Stewart, who was good depth. I liked him.
Yeah, and safety is kind of an issue we're dealing with. It's a little thin for me, but
yeah, I would agree with that. So maybe he's someone we could sign for league minimum. We've got all of our starters, our young rookies who played really well. But again, for the depth, I think is important. Sam Acho at outside linebacker, Kevin Minter at inside linebacker, Earl Watford. I liked Earl.
Yeah, he did all right.
Yeah. Josh Wells at right tackle, Andrew Adams, Gerald Hawkins.
Oh, Andrew Adams, AAA.
I know, but he didn't do a whole lot once he came back. And again, we have starters.
He didn't screw up, so that's a plus.
He had that one game in 2018 with the 3 interceptions, and then it's like he peaked during that game.
And that was more because Cam Newton couldn't throw the ball more than 15 yards.
Exactly, the noodle arm. Then we've got Gerald Hawkins at tackle, Michael Lidke at guard, Ryan Stewart at corner. He's an exclusive rights free agent, as is Bryant Mitchell at wide receiver. So I think all these guys are probably going to be cap casualties. We'll see.
Yeah, Blaine Gabbert's really dependent, like you said, on who we sign as a quarterback. Wouldn't that be something if we made him the starter?
There is no way.
No.
Are you on drugs, Ralph?
No. Well, I was upset when we signed him because I've always thought Blaine Gabbert was just horrible.
Yeah. Where was he first? At Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, he's been all over the place and sucked everywhere he went.
But hey, BA had faith in him, so thank God he never had to go out there and play. We ended up getting hurt, right?
Yeah.
He was on the
IR immediately.
So he just collected his paycheck.
So that's Buccaneers free agency. I think we're going to get a little more activity than we did last year. Hopefully it's good. I don't want to see a lot of bad, but I am concerned about these middle tier free agents. I am not as much worried about our big guys that we want to sign because I think the Buccaneers are motivated to get that done. Yeah,
we've got them covered. The mid-tier guys, like you said, are all dependent on who we sign as a quarterback and how much we pay them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if we sign Jameis Winston to a $30 million contract.
And I just think that's outrageous.
I do too.
After looking at all the comparables and...
You're thinking 26, 27 million?
I would be okay with low 20s.
Low 20s?
25 at the most.
Okay. Well, then that would be good because then we could bring back all of our mid-tier guys.
Yeah, I think so too.
But if we get like Tom Brady at 33 million, we're only going to be able to bring back one or two mid-tier guys.
Right. So how much do you want Tom Brady?
Yeah, and there was...
Is he worth Carl Nassib, DeMar Dotson, Bo Allen, Brashad Perriman, Raheem Nunez-Roches, Ryan Smith, and Anthony Auclair? Is he worth all those guys?
Yeah.
I think so too.
I think so. I mean, you never know. I mean, just Tom Brady. Come on. It would, oh man.
The GOAT.
It'd be so crazy. But then again, at the same time, I don't want Tom Brady to come in here and take us to the Super Bowl and win it, because then it'll be the same thing that happened with John Gruden, where everybody gave John Gruden credit for us winning the Super Bowl. You know, if Tom Brady comes in here, takes us to the Super Bowl and wins it, everybody's going to say, oh, well, definitely it's Tom Brady. And nobody else on our team will get any credit for it. But then again, it would be a Super Bowl.
It's a Super Bowl ring. Shut your mouth. Like, what are you even talking about?
But there's no way. I mean, Jameis Winston is talking about a $30 million plus a year.
He's out of his mind.
There's no way we're going to pay him that much. I mean,
if I can pay Tom Brady $30 million or Jameis Winston $30 million, I'm paying Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Now, I like Jameis, and I would like to see him back.
But not for $30 million.
Not for $30 million.
Not to lose.
Yeah, not to lose all those guys. And when you look at the market, I absolutely 100% do not want to draft anybody, though. That's where I draw the line. Yeah. Yeah, I would draft and let them sit on the bench for a while. But a starter, no.
Yeah, I don't want to go through that anymore.
No.
Interesting.
Should be gearing up Wednesday.
Wednesday's going to be exciting.
I know. Well, Monday, too. Tomorrow morning, we'll find out.
Yeah. We're not going to do a podcast tomorrow, though, so we'll do a podcast Wednesday once all this stuff starts.
Well, I got to do the Know Your Enemies. So.
Nah, we're going to have so much information Wednesday. You can do that. We've got 2 weeks of being quarantined in this house, so we'll figure something out. But hey, I wanted to remind everybody that... or not remind everybody, but tell everybody, if you look at in the description of the podcast, there's a link there to send a voice message to us if you want to. Just press on the link and it'll take you, and you can send us a voice message straight from your phone or wherever you're at, your computer, your laptop, whatever. Give us a voice message, you scallywags. We want to hear from you.
You can also get in touch with us on Twitter at Bucs_Observer. You can email me at mollybay@buccaneersobserver.com or Ralph at Buccaneersobserver.com. I do that every time. We're also on Facebook and YouTube. You can search for us on those 2 platforms.
And that's going to wrap it up for us. Till next time.
Go Bucs!